Have you ever wondered why it feels like the world punishes people who feel too much? Why those with soft hearts, who notice every detail, who sense the unspoken emotions in others, often end up the most anxious, the most exhausted, and sometimes the most depressed? Carl Jung once said, "The modern world demands numbness, yet the sensitive heart cannot help but bleed." And if you've ever carried sensitivity like a hidden weight, you know exactly what he meant. Everywhere you look, the message is the same. Toughen up, stop overthinking, don't take things personally. But how can you do that when your mind and heart are wired differently? For the sensitive soul, the world isn't just seen, it's felt. You don't just hear words, you absorb the tone. You don't just witness suffering, you carry it inside you. This depth of feeling, while beautiful, can become unbearable in a culture that glorifies detachment and emotional numbness. So in this video, let's explore why sensitivity becomes a wound in modern life and how, according to Jung, it can also become the very path to wisdom and transformation. Modern life is not built for sensitive souls. Everywhere you turn, there's noise, notifications buzzing, news headlines screaming, advertisements pulling at your attention. The world moves fast, and it demands that you move with it, without pause, without reflection. For someone who feels everything deeply, this is like trying to walk barefoot through a storm of broken glass. Every sharp edge cuts into you. Take social media, for example. Most people scroll and forget, but if you're sensitive, you don't just consume content, you absorb it. A smiling photo isn't just a picture, it's a reminder of your own loneliness. A tragic headline isn't just information, it's grief you carry in your chest. Even casual comments can stay with you for hours, echoing in your mind long after the other person has forgotten what they said. Workplaces aren't much different. The demand for endless productivity, the pressure to always perform, can feel crushing. A single critique might leave you replaying the moment all night, questioning your worth. This constant overstimulation and lack of space for depth turns sensitivity into exhaustion. And exhaustion, if ignored, eventually transforms into depression. One of the hardest things about being sensitive in today's world is not the sensitivity itself. It's the way people respond to it. Society equates strength with emotional control, with detachment, with the ability to move on quickly. If you hesitate, if you reflect too long, if you care too deeply, you're often labeled as fragile, dramatic, or weak. But Jung would argue this isn't weakness at all. It's actually a form of deeper awareness. To survive, many sensitive people develop what Jung called a persona, a mask that hides their inner reality so they can fit in. You laugh at jokes that hurt you. You shrug off comments that cut deep. You act fine when inside you're drowning. The world applauds a mask and ignores the truth. But here's the danger. When you live behind a mask for too long, you start to lose touch with yourself. The parts of you that feel deeply, your empathy, your intuition, your compassion, get buried under layers of performance. And when those parts are suppressed, they don't disappear. They sink into the unconscious, resurfacing as sadness, anxiety, and eventually depression. When the world tells you that your feelings are too much, you learn to hide them. You push them down. You distract yourself. You bury them under busyness. At first, it might even seem like it works. You stay busy at work. You scroll through social media. You binge shows late at night. Anything to avoid sitting with the heaviness inside. But what Carl Jung warned is that what we repress doesn't disappear. It simply retreats into the unconscious, gathering power in the dark. This is why sensitive people often feel waves of sadness or anxiety that seem to come from nowhere. It's not random. It's the echo of emotions that were never given space. Avoidance always has a cost. Overworking may silence your pain during the day, but it comes back at night when you're lying awake, restless. Denial might shield you from confrontation, but the feelings you avoid build tension inside your body, stress, fatigue, even physical illness. The truth is, Sensitivity only becomes a wound when it's denied. By pretending not to feel, you slowly lose the ability to recognize yourself. And that inner disconnection is where depression begins to take root. Carl Jung believed that every person carries a shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we deny, suppress, or reject. For sensitive people, the shadow often contains emotions they were never allowed to show: anger, resentment, boundaries, even healthy selfishness. Society rewards them for being kind, forgiving, and gentle, but punishes them when they express frustration or say no. So they learn to bury these sides of themselves. But the shadow doesn't vanish just because it's hidden. Instead, it festers. For many sensitive souls, this shows up as quiet bitterness, suppressed rage, or a deep sadness they can't fully explain. They feel guilty for even having these emotions, so the cycle continues. Feel too much, repress it, suffer in silence. This constant inner war creates depression, not because sensitivity itself is a problem, but because a whole part of the self has been locked away. Jung warned that ignoring the shadow only strengthens it. What we refuse to face eventually controls us, and for sensitive people, that means the very qualities that protect them, like anger as a boundary or assertiveness as self-respect, remain trapped in the dark, leaving them wounded and unprotected. And so the journey circles back, not to them, but to you. Healing is not a straight road. It is a spiral. Each turn takes you deeper, forcing you to face fragments of yourself you once abandoned just to survive. Pieces of your joy, your confidence, your innocence, all hidden away when their shadow loomed too large. When you heal, you gather those fragments like scattered stars. You begin to stitch them back into the fabric of your being. And with every piece reclaimed, your light grows stronger. This is what terrifies the narcissist most. Not that you left, but that you return to yourself. Because in truth, they never wanted you to see your own brilliance. They needed you to forget, to shrink, to doubt. Their power relied on your blindness. But healing is sight restored. It is walking into the mirror and finally recognizing the face staring back. It is saying, I am whole, even if you try to break me. Jung wrote, only the wounded physician heals. It means that through your suffering, you acquire wisdom, compassion, and strength that can never be taught by ease. You are not just surviving. You are becoming someone deeper, someone freer, someone who cannot be controlled by illusions anymore. This is why healing feels so dangerous to them. Because once you awaken, you no longer belong to their story. You belong to your own. And from that moment on, every choice you make, every boundary you draw, every dream you pursue is a silent declaration of victory. You are not what they said you were. You are what you have become. And so we return to Jung's truth. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. For the sensitive soul, this acceptance is the greatest rebellion against a world that glorifies numbness. It is the act of saying, I will feel, even if it hurts, even if it sets me apart. Your sensitivity was never the wound. The wound was the world's refusal to honor it. What once felt like a curse becomes, in healing, the seed of your greatest gift. To feel deeply is to live fully. To carry the weight of empathy is to hold the threads that connect human hearts. Yes, the narcissist tried to convince you otherwise. Yes, the world told you to harden, to silence, to shrink. But you have discovered a different path. To turn your wound into wisdom, your pain into power, your sensitivity into strength. And perhaps that is what it means to heal. Not to erase the scars, but to let them remind you that you survived, that you transformed, that you became more than what tried to destroy you. The sensitive heart may bleed, but it also learns to shine.